All right, so today we're diving into a story I bet you think you know pretty well. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone kind of has those images, right? Like the White Rabbit all flustered, the Mad Hatter's tea party, that Queen of Hearts always losing her temper.
Oh, for sure.
But we're going to try something kind of fun today. We've got these excerpts from the Oxford Bookworms retelling.
Okay.
And our mission is to really dig into those first weird moments when Alice goes down the rabbit hole.
Right.
You know, the stuff you might not even remember.
The stuff that sets up that whole crazy world.
Exactly.
And it's not just kids stuff, you know? When you look at those early oddities, you see how they build this foundation for everything else that happens.
Oh, totally.
You might be surprised by what you find when you actually pay attention.
So the story starts, and Alice is just bored out of her mind.
Classic.
Her sister's book has no pictures, no dialogue.
Oh, worse.
I think we've all been there, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Just wishing anything would happen.
Yeah, anything at all.
And then, bam, this white rabbit with pink eyes just zooms by, muttering about being late.
Okay, but here's the thing. This rabbit pulls a watch out of his pocket.
Oh, right.
A talking animal is one thing, but punctual and with a watch.
That's next level.
Exactly. It's like normal human stuff crashing into this totally illogical world.
And it happens right away.
Right off the bat, it's like warning the rules, you know? They don't apply here.
And then she falls down the rabbit hole.
The iconic fall.
But it's not a quick drop. She floats down for ages.
It's so strange.
She sees cupboards, bookshelves, pictures on the walls.
It's like falling through someone's crazy attic.
Right. She even tries to make sense of it.
Yeah.
She thinks well, after a fall, this long tripping on the stairs back home will be nothing.
Haha. I love that.
It's so Alice.
It's that slowness that's important, I think.
Oh, how so?
It lets both Alice and you, the listener, slowly enter this absurdity.
Okay, yeah.
It's not a shock. It's like easing into a world where nothing makes sense.
Like dipping your toes in the crazy.
Exactly. And her trying to compare it to normal stuff.
Yeah.
It's so human. You know, trying to understand the unbelievable by making it normal.
We all do that.
Don't you think? Trying to find logic in the illogical.
All the time. It's like when you're telling someone about a weird dream.
Exactly.
And then she starts wondering how far she's fallen.
Right.
And she just comes out with this fact. The Earth's center is 4,000 miles down.
Like it's common knowledge.
I know. She was definitely paying attention in class.
It's such a little detail, but it tells you so much.
Yeah.
She's a normal kid with normal knowledge in this totally abnormal place.
This clash between facts and pure nonsense.
That's at the heart of her whole Wonderland experience.
So she finally lands, and it's this long, dark room full of locked doors. That feeling of being stuck, you know.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
And there's this tiny gold key on a glass table. And it unlocks a tiny door 40 centimeters high.
Wow.
And you see this gorgeous garden through it.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
So close, but so far away.
It's like that thing we see in stories all the time.
It's that?
Chasing something perfect that's just out of reach.
Yeah, I feel that.
And it sets up the whole thing. Alice wants this thing, but there are all these obstacles.
Ooh, too real.
Haven't you ever wanted something so bad, but there's a wall in the way?
Oh, constantly.
That.
And then, of course, she can't fit through the door.
Right, because she's too big.
So what does she find? A bottle that says, "Drink me."
Ooh, classic.
Now me, I might think twice.
Yeah, I'd be running the other way.
But Alice, she thinks for a sec and then just takes a sip.
Bold move.
I know. But her reasoning is so perfect.
Oh, what does she say?
Something like, it was already a very strange day, and Alice was beginning to think that anything was possible.
Wow. Yeah, Wonderland is changing her whole worldview.
Right.
At first she's cautious, but then the crazy just takes over.
And the way they describe the taste,
How?
like a mix of chocolate and coffee and all this good stuff.
That makes it sound so tempting.
Right. Like the impossible is suddenly delicious.
I love that.
And then, boom, she shrinks down to 25 centimeters.
Did she make it?
Nope. Now she's too small to reach the key on the table.
Oh.
Classic Wonderland. You solve one problem, another one pops up.
It's madness.
Can you see how that logic just runs through everything?
Totally. It's like a constant cycle. Get close to what you want.
And then, bam.
New problem.
So then there's this cake that says, "Eat me."
Another mystery snack.
And her logic is amazing.
What's she thinking?
If she eats it and gets bigger, she can get the key.
Okay. Yeah.
If she gets smaller, she can go under the door.
Sorry.
She says, so it doesn't matter what happens.
So optimistic.
Right. like a weirdly positive way to deal with all the crazy.
He's trying to find reason in all this nonsense.
And it's kind of admirable.
Totally.
But of course something does happen.
What now?
She grows huge, as tall as a house.
Oh my gosh.
And her head hits the ceiling, but she's still nowhere near that tiny door.
Yeah. Poor Alice.
I know. She can't control her own size at all.
It's like she's stuck on this crazy roller coaster.
It's like that feeling when things change so fast you don't recognize yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So then we get to the pool of tears.
Okay.
She's giant and frustrated, and she just starts crying.
Oh.
But, I mean, really crying.
Like a lot.
She makes this large pool of water around herself.
Wow.
It's kind of funny, but kind of dark.
It's like she's drowning in her own sadness.
Right. You ever felt like your emotions were just too much?
Definitely.
And then guess who shows up?
Mm.
The white rabbit. Still freaking out about being late.
Of course.
And he mistakes giant Alice for his housemaid.
No way.
I know. He calls her Mary Ann and starts ordering her around.
That's so rude.
Right. This giant crying girl is suddenly his servant.
It just shows how nobody sees Alice for who she really is.
Yeah, like she's invisible.
And that's when she starts to think about who she even is.
It's a huge moment. She's like, did I change in the night? Am I a different person today? But if I'm a different person, then the next question is, who am I? Ah, that's the mystery.
Wow.
All these physical changes are making her question everything.
Yeah, Wonderland's craziness is messing with her sense of self.
And it makes you think, how much does how we look or what happens to us actually define who we are?
Right.
It's a deep question.
For sure.
And then to make things worse, she finds herself wearing one of the rabbit's gloves.
Oh, no.
And she starts shrinking again.
This poor girl.
She has no control over her own body.
And then she falls into her own pool of tears.
It's so bizarre.
It's like she's drowning in her own emotions.
Exactly.
And that's where she meets the mouse.
Right, and that conversation is just awkward.
Yeah. How so?
Well, she tries to be polite.
Okay.
And she assumes it speaks French.
Why French?
Because the first French sentence she remembers is, "Where is my cat?"
Oh, Ellis.
I know, right? Not the best way to make a good first impression.
Especially with a mouse.
And the mouse just freaks out at the mention of cats.
Understandably.
That's a random specific detail.
But it shows how easy it is to mess up when you're dealing with something totally new.
Like different cultures and different ways of thinking.
Yeah, Alice just makes things worse by trying to be nice.
So she finally gets out of the pool of tears.
Okay.
But she still wants to get bigger to reach that garden.
Makes sense.
And that's when she runs into the caterpillar.
Sitting on a mushroom.
Smoking a pipe.
Such a classic image.
It's like peak Wonderland.
What do you think about the caterpillar?
He seems so chill, like he's seen it all before.
Totally.
And his first question to Alice is just, who are you?
Point blank.
And Alice, she's honest. She says she knew who she was this morning.
But now,
after all this, she feels like a totally different person.
it's that question of identity again.
Then the caterpillar's like, explain yourself.
Oof.
But how do you explain when you're constantly changing,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
even without all the shrinking and growing?
It's something we all struggle with sometimes.
Right, like who am I really?
Exactly.
And then the caterpillar gives her this cryptic advice about the mushroom.
What's he say?
One side will make you taller, and the other side will make you shorter.
Helpful?
But he doesn't say which side is which.
Classic.
It's like Wonderland is testing her.
Making her figure it out.
So of course she tries both sides.
What happened?
At first she gets super tall, like tree tall.
Oh, boy.
And this bird comes up to her and yells, "Egg thief."
What?
I know, it makes no sense.
But that's Wonderland for you.
It's like they're accusing her just because she's big.
And birds lay eggs?
Yeah, so she must be stealing them.
It's the kind of logic that drives you crazy.
And their conversation just goes in circles.
So frustrating.
But then the caterpillar says something really interesting.
What's that?
He says, never get angry.
Wow.
It's like this little bit of real advice.
In all the chaos.
Yeah. Maybe he's learned that anger just doesn't work in Wonderland.
It's too unpredictable.
Then he asks Alice, how tall do you want to be?
That's a good question.
Right. Like, how can you even know what you want when everything's changing all the time?
And can you even control it?
Anyway.
Yeah.
She eventually gets back to normal size thanks to the mushroom.
Thank goodness.
And she's focused on finding that garden again.
After all that, she still wants to find it.
It's like she needs some beauty after all the weirdness.
I get it.
So looking back at this first part of Alice's journey,
Yeah.
it's all about change.
Constant change.
Weird characters,
Talking rabbits, judgmental mice.
philosophical caterpillars,
Huh.
But most importantly, it's about Alice figuring out who she is.
Because everything around her is changing.
Exactly.
The biggest takeaway for me is that Wonderland is just unpredictable.
Right from the start.
Like drinking from a bottle or eating a cake.
It leads to all this crazy stuff.
You never know what's going to happen.
And it makes you think about your own life.
How so?
Like what things seem stable, but might actually be changing all the time.
Good question.
And how do you know who you really are when everything's in flux?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's a pretty curious or thought to leave you with.
I think we did it.
Another deep dive.
Until next time.